Greetings and blessed day to you once again, people of God. It's the Revelator once again, and hoping you had a pleasant week in the presence of the Lord. And before I take you into today's presentation, I just want to give you a brief recap of what we covered last time. Last time we covered on the persecutions, the afflictions, the rejections, and the dimensions of sufferings in the gospel. Explained a variety of diversities in that presentation, where I was unfolding and interpreting the diversities of persecutions inside the body of Christ. Today we want to share another unique presentation, and the unique presentation that we want to share today is on the evolution of humanity and nature, or the evolution of nature and humanity. And in the evolution of nature and humanity, inside that presentation we are also going to be describing the precious creation of God, the precious creation of God. So for us to understand more on the evolution of humanity and nature, let's get into the scriptures. But I'm going to be taking you to the very beginning, where it all began, so that you don't get lost in the revelation that God will be providing throughout the presentation. So let's get into scriptures. In the book of Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning, the moment it's explaining about the beginning, it's not explaining about the beginning of the beginning. The actual beginning was before the creation of the heavens, which is the beginning, which is written by John the Revelator in the book of John chapter 1 verse 1, where he's talking about the beginning, which consists of God and the Word. Now this was the beginning of creation, not the beginning of the creatures only, but the beginning of all creation. Not just the creature who you might resemble as a human being, or just the animals, but the beginning of all creation consists of the earth itself. It is also the creation. So this was in the beginning of the Creator. The beginning of the Creator is explained by John the Revelator in the book of John, where he explains the Word and God. So here in the book of Genesis, it's explaining about the beginning of God having created the heaven and the earth, but the emphasis is on the beginning of the earth, which is the creation. And also heaven is a creation, but we are emphasizing on the creation on this lower realm. I'm going to explain about the beginning of heaven some other time, so that you understand the cycle of how God created the heavens and every spiritual being that dwells in heaven, which consists of the angelic beings and any other creation that was created in the supernatural dimension by God. But the creation that I want to explain is in the evolution of humanity and nature. And in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, it says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep." What it means is that on the lower realm of heaven, which I just give you a brief emphasis about its creation in the supernatural dimension, was a void realm that was shapeless, which was not covered. It was just a placeholder that had nothing. And this was like a bare, a void land that was unused. And this is the portion or the platform that God then constructed the earth and everything in it. in what I'm going to be explaining. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. The light that God is declaring there is the light which manifests the presence of God. God himself is light. And even his own Son, who is the Word of God, who dwells inside God, is the light. This was one supernatural dimension of light that had already existed, but darkness was not created. It existed on that platform where God had not created or manifested his presence. And God said, let there be light, because he would not have said, let there be light, where there was no darkness, meaning that darkness already existed before light was then declared to consume certain portions or certain platforms where darkness was covering. And God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from darkness, meaning that the moment that God is dividing light from darkness, it means he is not covering his light everywhere. There are areas that he left so that darkness could have domain. And God called light day, and the darkness he called night. He named them as night and day, meaning that night and day, they represent light and darkness. And they have been given equal portions, equal platforms to dominate. And the evening and the morning were the first, the evening coming from the night, and the morning coming from the light, which is the day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters, meaning that there were waters that were on the above realm, which is the realm that had already been existent, which is just beneath the heavens, that had already been created by God. And there were waters that were already resting on the lower realm, which is the void earth, which had not yet been planted anything or constructed anything by God. Meaning that the very first creation that God created was a void platform that did not have the heavens or the earth. The heavens or the earth, they represent platforms that occupied a void platform that God had already created in the beginning. I hope someone is understanding me. And in those platforms, what existed was light and darkness. And the water already existed on the lower part of the realm and on the higher part of the realm, way before the heavens were then constructed. And then the construction that I'm explaining about here, it is the construction of the earth on the lower realm, which was still being consumed by darkness on the void earth. This is the platform where God created the earth, and there was water on the beneath surface and water on the above surface. And this is the water that then God separated and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. The firmament that was called heaven is not the heaven that was constructed that you cannot see with your eyes. The heaven that is being talked about here is the realm where there is an empty void place which is not constructed anything, where the birds fly. And the evening and the morning were the second day. So the second day could only be pronounced after light had been introduced to separate two different platforms, meaning that this was also the creation of the first day. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let the earth bring forth grass and herb yielding seed, and the fruit yielding fruit, after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth, and it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and the herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the third day. All these were creations that were being pronounced as God was speaking, as God was declaring, as God was thinking. All things were manifesting. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. The lights that were being designed to give light upon the earth were not just the light that had been divided from darkness, but the light that remained in darkness, which only manifests when darkness takes its platform during the night. There are stars, the moon, anything that flashes light in the firmament. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. The greater light represents Jesus, and the lesser light represents Lucifer, the devil, who rules the kingdom of darkness. I just explained this so that you have a deeper spiritual understanding of the representations of the two lights, the greater light and the lesser light. He made the stars also. Remember, in heaven, in the book of Isaiah, it explains about the stars being the angels. And these stars that show light, they are the angels. Angels, and in different categories that are created in the heavenly realm. They are in different significances. And the stars that you see on the realm in heavenly places at night, those are angelic beings that are in form of stars. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly moving creatures that have life, and the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created whales and every living creature that moves, which the waters brought forth abundantly. They are moving creatures that don't stay in water, and creatures that dwell inside water, that were brought forth by the waters after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Even some creatures that fly in the air like birds, they all came from water. As I'm explaining the evolution of nature and humanity, creation that came out of water, that does not dwell inside water, and creation that dwells and lives inside water, also created inside water. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the fifth day. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, the cackle and the creeping thing, and the beast of the earth after his kind. And the earth also, which is the dust, brought forth its own kind of creatures. And God made the beast of the earth after his kind, and the cackle and after their kind, and everything that creeps upon the earth after his own kind. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let us now make men in our image and after our own likeness, and let them have dominion. The moment that God is saying, let us, it means he is not talking to himself, he's talking to the Holy Spirit and Jesus, which is the Trinity, which already existed way before Jesus descended on this realm that is called the earth. Way before this earth was fully constructed and everything in it, Jesus already existed. There are those that continue dwelling in scriptures that are rigid and limited, who think Jesus was born here on earth. Jesus is not limited at that level. He existed before time. He existed before days. So God created man in his own image. And in the image of God created him, male and female created he them. I'm going to be explaining about the creation of that female later on. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the earth, and over every living thing that moves and creeps upon the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in each which the fruit of the tree yielding seed to you, it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and every creeping thing that God had created. Now, when it comes to the mystery of a man that has been created in the image of God and in the likeness of the same God, it means Adam was not created as just a human being. He had the nature of a God inside him. I've asked myself my question, a question that was requested by my own self and directed to my own self, and I referred that question to myself as the Revelator. Where did all the different races come from when God created Adam? Before we can even talk about Eve, that was taken from Adam's rib, you understand that Adam, having the nature of a God and having also that human nature in him, which then fell to sin, Adam had the capability of producing like God. The animals that were created by God from the ground of the earth, Adam also had animals that he named. Adam produced also different races. The scriptures do not provide the evidence of what I want to explain here, because when Cain was punished by God and he was cursed, where he went to live, where he went to dwell in another place, there were people there, meaning that Adam had more than 2 children, which are not only Cain and Abel. There are people that are so rigid and they are so manipulated by scriptures, yet John the Revelator talks about the scriptures of even the works of Jesus being so many to the level that if they had all been written, the works of Jesus, the earth would not have been able to contend or to comprehend with all the writings that would have been written. Meaning that even this whole Bible, there are scriptures, there is information that is not written, which means if it had been written, it would have consumed many books that this earth would not have comprehended with. So the definition of Abel and Cain is just an introduction, a summary of creation, of an evolution system of man in the spirit, not the evolution of science, which explains apes transforming and being converted to men. That is totally rubbish. Adam and Eve gave birth to different races. And how is that possible? It's because Adam had the nature of a God inside him, being the first precious creation of God. I hope someone is understanding what I'm saying. It means Adam gave birth to different races. Right now, we have different races. We have blacks, we have whites, we have Chinese. We have many races. We have many colors. It means Adam had the capability of having the power to predetermine what color he wanted to give birth to and what race. He created not only races. Adam spoke different languages. Adam was a God himself. He had the abilities that men in this time don't have. One thing that proves that Adam had abilities that are beyond is that, number one, he could communicate with God directly. He could name animals without researching, something that you cannot do now. You cannot name anything without following a name that is already provided, without going on Google. Everything that Adam created or named came from Adam. It means Adam had that nature of a God in himself which could create anything, meaning that Adam has got other creations that he made and breathed life into, being inspired by the same God. So it's not every animal, it's not every creation which comprises of nature which God created directly. There are creations, there are names that came out of Adam because he had the nature of a God before the sin. Men then lost the power to create or to name anything according to the inspiration of being creators as lesser gods after sin. Another proof that proves that Adam had the capability of recreating or creating. He even recreated himself when God manifested Eve, his wife, from his own rib. That is a manifestation of another human being from another human being. Without the cycle, without the reproduction cycle that science now wants to explain to us today of sexual intercourse, without the reproductive system of a woman, another human being was created from Adam. So if Adam could recreate another human being, why does it become so difficult for you to believe that Adam created many other things? Getting obviously assistance from God, because God being the greater God, being the greater creator, anything that Adam then created, it was out of the influence of God, just like Eve was created. This is the same way every other aspect that were then created, besides those that were directly created by God. I hope someone is understanding in the evolution of nature and humanity. So the precious creation of God cannot be confirmed and fully explained without the inclusion of Adam being a creator too, as a lesser God. So nature itself, it was created by God, but Adam also played a role. Humanity itself was created by God, but Adam also played a role. The animals that were formed from the ground were created by God, but Adam also played a role by naming those animals. So people of God, I want you to understand that the evolution of man, the evolution of humanity, the evolution of nature, the evolution of animals, anything that was created is not fully mentioned without God, and it cannot be fully confirmed without Adam, who is the man, the humanity, nature, all this created by God, and the man representing the likeness and the image of God, the image representing the character and the likeness representing the abilities, the capacity of being a lesser God to also recreate and reproduce. People of God, I hope someone has understood the evolution of nature and humanity, the precious creation of God. Until next time, have a great blessed day.